The next part is properties of a colloidal solution. So colloidal solution have different properties. From the beginning, we have read like this: colloidal solution seems to be homogeneous, but actually heterogeneous in nature. Particle size lies between true solution to suspension, 10 to the power minus 6 to 10 to the power minus 9 particle size. Yes or no? Then colloidal solution means each colloidal solution has some charge. Each colloidal solution has some charge. Yes or no? So here I have written colloidal solution carries some charge, means electric charge. Some colloidal solutions are positively charged and some colloidal solutions are negatively charged. Suppose you see hydrated metal oxide, basic dye, methylene blue, hemoglobin, oxides like titanium oxide, these colloids are positively charged. Similarly, metal salts like silver, gold, copper salt, acidic dye, yes or no, cogen, eosin, then metal sulfides, starch, gum, these are negatively charged colloidal solutions. So colloidal solution has some charge. Then next, colloidal solution, it is not possible to see the colloidal particle with the naked eyes, or with the help of a microscope also the particles are not visible. Colloidal particle shows some colligative properties. Similarly, when a beam of light ray pass through the colloidal solution, yes or no, the colloidal solution path bright. You know, this is called Tyndall effect. That means when a beam of light ray pass through the colloidal solution particle size are little big, so that when light pass through this, then dispersion or scattering of light takes place. So due to this scattering of light, the path of the solution become bright. This is known as a Tyndall effect. Okay, this is known as Tyndall effect. So Tyndall effect is the property of a colloidal solution. Similarly, colloidal solution also has some color, and that color depends on the light frequency, or the frequency of light, which one is pass through the solution, and also depends upon the particle size. Suppose you see in a test tube, suppose if you take a milk colloidal solution, suppose from that side sun rays is coming, and you are observing from this side. And similarly, if you rotate like this, sun is coming like this, and we are observing only reflected, not transmitted light. So that's why two different color will come. And color is like this: a mixture of milk and water appears blue when viewed by the reflected light. That means when you will see like this, it looks like blue. And red when it is viewed by transmitted light. Similarly, gold sol is red in color. As the size of the particle increases, its color changes to purple, then blue, and finally golden yellow. Understood? So when the colloidal solutions are viewed under a powerful microscope, then we can see that the particles are in zigzag motion. The particles are in zigzag motion, which one is known as Brownian movement. So that's why colloidal particle or colloidal solution has different properties. Clear now? So the main property is Tyndall effect, zigzag motion, color. Then colloidal solution carries some electric charge, some positive and some negative charge. Colloidal solution particle size very small, cannot be seen our naked eye, seems to be homogeneous, actually heterogeneous in nature. Clear now? So these are the different properties of a colloidal solution. The next is how the charge of the colloidal solution can be decided. It's the most important part in this chapter. The charge of the colloidal solution, okay, how it can be decided. You see, first to take one example like this. You see, suppose here we will take two test tube A and test tube B. Here suppose AgNO3 inside is Ki and here we'll add Ki inside test tube is AgNO3. Okay, question will come like this. This picture will be given. Question will ask which type of charge will develop in test tube A and test tube B. Second, what is the cause of this formation of charge? Third, what happens when electricity pass through this? Okay, and fourth, what do you mean by that is coagulation? So like this, first so you see what are the formation of charge or what is the origin of this charge. So first one is in test tube A. So our relation is like this. So equation is Ki plus AgNO3. It gives rise to Agi plus what? KNO3. And you always remember the substance which one is present inside the test tube, it is always maximum amount, excess. So here Ki is excess. Similarly, in test tube B is AgNO3 when Ki, yes or no, here AgNO3 is excess, so it also gives what? Agi plus KNO3. And we know Agi is the solid precipitate. Now come to the first test tube A. Here which one is excess? So here Ki is excess. So whatever AgNO3 we have added, that all Ag combine with I to form Ag. All NO3 combine with K to form KNO3. You know KNO3 is short, it is highly soluble or highly saturated. So Agi is precipitated. That means in this test tube, in this test tube, so here precipitate is Agi is formed. Here it is Agi precipitate is formed. So this part is excess. That means some K plus ions are more and some I minus ions are more. So K plus and I minus, these numbers are more. And you know between K plus and I minus, K plus ion group 1 element, so it is highly solvated. So that's why in the test tube, this is your precipitate and outside is the solvent. So in the solvent, K plus ions are there and I minus ions are little what? Little big size. So that's why here I minus ions are there. So if we represent in a, you see, if we represent in this form, suppose this is our PPT Agi, okay, and outside is what? Here outside is I minus and surrounding that solution is a K plus. So how can we represent this? So it can be represented like this. Agi, this is solid, okay, and I minus. Understood? So which type of charge will develop in test tube A? So in the test tube A, negative charge will develop. Understood? Similarly, come to in the second test tube. So here AgNO3 is excess, means Ag plus and NO3 minus ions are more. So here we will represent like this: Agi precipitate and Ag plus and Ag plus. This is the representation. So here in the test tube A, negative ion will develop, and in test tube B, positive ion will develop. Negative ion will develop and a positive ion will develop. Understood? Clear? So when the question will come, what is the origin of a charge? So like this charge will come. So if we explain, yes or no, it is quite lengthy. So in one word we can write, this is called due to preferential adsorption. This is called due to preferential adsorption. Here negative charge and here positive charge will develop in test tube A and test tube B. Clear? So in test tube A, AgNO3, Ki and yes or no. Similarly, test tube B, positive charge will develop. Understood? Clear? So the charge on the colloidal particle is due to either by electron capture, by solution, or due to preferential adsorption, or due to formation of electrical double layer. Yes or no? So due to this reason, what formation of charge will come. But here you will remember the formation of charge is due to preferential adsorption. Clear now? And here you will see So this is precipitate form. This is precipitate form. This is called a fixed layer. This is called a fixed layer, and that outside is known as a diffused layer. Okay, so that's why this is also known as electrical double layer. Got the idea? Precipitate form, okay, fixed layer, and outside is what? Another layer. So precipitate, fixed layer, diffused layer. So this is called electrical double layer. Yes or no? And one is positive and another one is negative. So that's why there is a potential difference. So that potential difference is known as zeta potential. Zeta, Z-E-T-A, zeta potential. Okay, zeta potential, or this is called a double layer, or Gibbs Helmholtz electrical double layer also it is called. Okay, understood what is the meaning of zeta potential? So like this, what is the cause of charge? So this is one example. Okay, so when AgNO3 KiNO3, always will remember which one is present inside the test tube, its number is always more. Yes or no? Whatever we are adding, its number is always less. Clear? Cause of charge is due to preferential adsorption, double layer, potential difference is known as a zeta potential. Similarly, another example you will see when FeCl3 added to excess hot water, FeCl3 added to excess hot water, and another one is when FeCl3 added to NaOH. FeCl3 added to NaOH. Reasoning question. So when FeCl3 added to hot water, then formation of positively charged salt Fe2O3 dot XH2O slash Fe3 plus. Similarly, here Fe2O3 dot XH2O slash OH minus. So here negatively charged colloid, here positively charged colloid will form. Remember this part. Understood? Question will come like this: what happens when? Because in this chapter maximum questions are also what happens when. So what happens when FeCl3 added to hot water, excess hot water, formation of positively charged salt, FeCl3 added to NaOH, formation of negatively charged salt takes place. Understood? So fixed layer, double layer, okay, zeta potential, this part you will remember. Clear now? Okay. So dear student, so after the charge of the colloidal particle, the next part or next property of the colloidal solution is that what do you mean by electrophoresis? So electrophoresis means what? Suppose in a container, if you take some colloidal solutions, last class we have read that colloidal solution or the colloidal particle has some charge, and if you will suppose water dip to electrode and if you will apply electricity from the outside, then the migration of a colloidal particle takes place towards the opposite charged electrode. Okay, so this is the meaning of electrophoresis. So electrophoresis means the migration of a colloidal particle towards the electrode in the presence of electric field is known as electrophoresis. Okay, so electrophoresis, it is of two types. One is called cataphoresis and another one is called anaphoresis. So when the migration of a colloidal particle towards cathode takes place, this is known as cataphoresis, and when towards anode, then it is called anaphoresis. Clear now? So this is the meaning of electrophoresis. So you see one picture. Suppose here we will take one. Let's suppose U type of suppose tube. Okay, U type of tube suppose it will take. Then here we will take two different suppose electrode and we are passing electric current outside. Clear? And here we are taking colloidal solution. Suppose this is positive electrode and this is negative electrode. Suppose here positively is what charged ions are present. Means the colloidal solution is positively charged. So when we apply electric field, when we apply electricity, what will happen? The positively charged colloidal particle, this positively charged colloidal particle, it move towards this what negative electrode. So it moves towards negative electrode. So this is known as electrophoresis. Clear? So again, the migration of colloidal particle under the influence of electric field is known as electrophoresis. So it is of two types. One is cataphoresis and another one is anaphoresis. Okay. Then next term is, what do you mean by electroosmosis? So you see, when we will apply electric field, then the migration of a colloidal particle takes place. Okay, so the process by which this migration of a colloidal particle can be stopped, the process by which the migration of a colloidal particle can be stopped, this is known as electroosmosis. Okay, so this is known as electroosmosis. Clear now? So this is the meaning of your electrophoresis and electroosmosis. Then next term is, what do you mean by coagulation? Yes or no? So last class I told coagulation means precipitation, PPT. Okay, so the process by which the colloidal solution can be precipitated, or we can say whatever the solute amount is present, that solute can be precipitated. This is known as coagulation. So we have read there are two types of solution. One is lyophilic and another one is lyophobic. So in the difference part I told that lyophobic and lyophilic sol can be easily coagulated. I have taken the example of that is egg albumin and water. So egg albumin and water can easily what precipitated by simple boiling. But how the lyophobic colloid can be coagulated or can be precipitated. So the coagulation of lyophobic colloid can be done by electrophoresis, by mixing two oppositely charged salt, by boiling, by persistent dialysis, and by addition of electrolyte. So here just now we have read, so by electrophoresis, yes or no? So when we will do electrophoresis, the colloidal particle will what moves towards either cathode or anode, and it will be deposited over the electrode. So when it will be deposited, then it is converted into precipitate form. So by electrophoresis, coagulation can be done. Similarly, by mixing two oppositely charged salt. So last class we have read that is AgNO3 Ki AgNO3, test tube A, test tube B. So there are two types of what? Positively charged and negatively charged salts are there. So if you add these two also, then what a formation of a precipitate takes place. So by mixing two oppositely charged salt, then coagulation can be done. Next is by boiling. So when you boil, then the solvent particle is what it evaporated and the solute particle will be settled down. So by boiling also coagulation can be done. Next is by persistent dialysis. So when we do the persistent dialysis, yes or no, solvent particle will be separated and a solute particle will be remain. So by persistent dialysis also we can do the coagulation. Next but last, it is very important, that is by addition of electrolyte. By addition of electrolyte. So addition of electrolyte when we will do by addition of electrolyte, and this is called your Hardy-Schulze rule. HARDY-SCHULZE. This is called Hardy-Schulze rule. Okay. So what is the meaning of this Hardy-Schulze rule, or by addition of electrolyte, how we can precipitate the colloidal solution? Suppose you see Inside this bottle, suppose if we will take some colloidal solution, and inside this bottle, yes or no? Inside this is suppose what? Inside the bottle, suppose negatively charged colloidal particle is present. So when the negatively colloidal charged particle is present, if you add the electrolyte, which one is positive charge, so it can be easily coagulated. Now question is coming. Suppose the negative colloidal particle is present. We are adding different types of electrolyte. Which electrolyte coagulation is faster? Coagulation rate is faster. So here you see. So when the negative colloidal solution is present, yes or no? The electrolyte whose positive charge ion is more, its coagulation is faster. Suppose you see Na plus, Mg2 plus, Al3 plus. So where negative colloidal charge particle is present, then coagulation rate faster is aluminium 3 plus greater than Mg2 plus greater than Na plus. Similarly, when the colloidal solution is positively charged, yes or no, negative, suppose Cl minus, SO4 2 minus, PO4 3 minus, yes or no, FeCN whole 6 4 minus. So you see, so this greater than this greater than this. Clear now? So when the colloidal solution is negatively charged, so when we are adding, you see, when we are adding NaCl, MgCl to AlCl3. So which case the coagulation is faster? Definitely AlCl3, because the charge of the cation is more. So what is the Haddis-Solz rule? What is the Haddis-Solz rule? The rule is like this. Greater is the charge of the flocculating ion added. Greater is the charge of the flocculating ion added. Greater is the cause of precipitation. This is your Haddis-Solz rule statement. Got the idea? So when any colloidal solution is given, each charge is given, yes or no? So we can easily identify that which salt, which electrolyte can coagulate faster. Understood? So that's why if negative given, this is the positive charge order. If positive charge colloidal solution given, then this is the negative charge order. Understood? So this is the meaning of your Haddis-Solz rule. Understood? So coagulation of lyophilic salt can be easily done, but lyophobic can be done by different method. Clear now? Then next part is the last part of the chapter, that is your protection of colloid. Okay, so protection of colloid, COLL. So protection of colloid. So we have read there are two types of colloid. One is lyophilic and another one is lyophobic. And I said that lyophilic salt, it is quite stable. Yes or no? It does not separate into two layers. But lyophobic salts, it may separate into two layers. That's why they need some stabilizing agent. That's why this is called a protection of colloid. Okay, so lyophilic salts are more stable than lyophobic salt. So lyophilic salts have a unique property that they can protect lyophobic salt. Means your lyophilic salt can protect lyophobic salt. Okay, sometimes if you add lyophilic salt to lyophobic salt, then it can protect the lyophobic salt. It does not allow to make them into two separate layers. Understood? So this is the meaning of your protection of colloid. When lyophilic salt is added to the lyophobic salt, the lyophilic particle form a layer around the lyophobic particle and protect the colloid. Understood? So when we add the lyophilic to the lyophilic salt, it forms a layer around the lyophobic particle so that it does not allow to make them into two separate layers. So this is the meaning of your protection of colloid. Understood? So this protection of colloid, you see how now we can do. So the next part is What is your emulsion? Emulsion, we know, we have read there are 8 in the box. We have read there are 8 types of colloid. So out of this, emulsion is a colloidal solution in which both dispersed phase and dispersion medium are liquid. Both. So it is a colloidal solution where liquid. Both dispersed phase and dispersion medium are liquid. So here emulsion, it is of 2 types. One is called water in oil type and another one is oil in water type. So suppose here one is dispersed phase, another dispersion medium. Here dispersed phase, this is dispersion medium. So one is called water and oil type and another one is oil and water type. So come to first, water in oil type. That means water dispersed in oil. Water dispersed in oil. So example is, you see, in this system water, your oil is a dispersion medium, and water is a dispersed phase. Example, butter, cream, yes or no? So in this case, you see, you know, butter and cream, especially you see, suppose when you are taking ice cream. So ice is actually water, polar. Cream, it is fat, non-polar. So if you mix them normal, yes or no, then what it separates into 2 layers. So that's why what we'll do, now when we'll do means water, that means when it converted into ice and cream, yes or no. So after what you're mixing, then when we'll put inside the fridge, then it water converted into water, solid form. But when suddenly when it comes to the outside, yes or no, then water it try to melt. So if you keep it for a long time, then ice and cream separates out. So that's why what you will add here, so that ice and cream, but they never separate easily. So in normal ice cream, you know, suppose whatever you are eating, whatever you are taking from the market, normal ice cream is that is 1 scoop is that around 30 rupees or 40 rupees. But you know one ice cream which is available in the market, that is Baskin Robbins ice cream. So in that ice cream, yes or no? So when you go to suppose Inox, your film will end, but that ice cream will never melt. Why? Because in that ice cream, some protective agent is there, which is known as emulsifying agent. Protective colloid, emulsifying agent. So in that ice cream, gelatin is used as a protective colloid. Got the idea? So this is the meaning of here protective colloid. So that's why. So in oil and water type, butter and cream are the example. So in this case, heavy metal salts of fatty acids, long chain alcohol, lamp black are used as a emulsifying agent in case of oil and water. Clear now? Okay, so cream, butter in this case, water is dispersed phase, oil is in a dispersion medium. But oil and water type, oil is dispersed phase and water is dispersion medium. So here example is milk, vanishing cream, these are under this category. And which one is used as a emulsifying agent? So here that emulsifying agent is protein, gum, natural and synthetic soap act as a emulsifying agent for this case. So got the idea? So this is the meaning of what your emulsion. So again, emulsion, it is a liquid colloidal solution. It is of 2 types. One is water and oil and water, water dispersed phase, oil dispersion medium, oil dispersed phase, water dispersion medium. Cream, butter are the example. Yes or no? Milk, vanishing cream are the example. Here the protecting agent is what? Your heavy metal salts, but here the protecting agents are protein, gum, these are the, okay. So why protecting agent is required? Because it does not what make them into 2 separate layers. So that's why it is very important in our day-to-day life. So that's why surface chemistry chapter, it is completely related to in our day-to-day life chapter. Yes or no? So that's why it is very important. Okay, and for entrance point of view, that 1 or 2 questions are coming, and for CBC point of view, that 3 mark questions are coming from this chapter, and all questions are what happens when related to this part. So here now some colloids around us now will read. Okay, means in our day-to-day life, different types of colloids are coming. You know, first one is suppose why the color of the sky is blue. You know, the color of the sky is blue due to scattering of light which is present by the dust particle or suspended water droplets. Similarly, fog, mist, rain, these are the colloidal particles. Different food articles like milk, butter, ice cream, fruit juice, halwa, yes or no, these are also colloid. Blood, soil, formation of delta, this is also a colloid. Okay, so one question is how the formation of delta takes place. How the formation of delta takes place, this is coming in the exam. Delta, you know, delta means you see, suppose this is the river and this is suppose our Bay of Bengal. So when the river meets the water, your sea water, yes or no, here formation of delta takes place. Okay, and you know the biggest delta in our India is that is Sundarban in West Bengal. So how delta takes place means sea water, you know, it contains different types of salt particles, electrolyte. Whereas river water, you know, suppose during the flood, river water contain many colloids. So when the river water, you know, colloid has some charge. So when the river water meets the sea water, so their mutual coagulation takes place. So when coagulation takes place, whatever the solid particle is present in the mud or water, your muddy water, all the particle will settle down in this area and it forms a delta region. This is called a delta. So that's why you will write like this. So colloidal solution of clay, river water, sea water contains a number of electrolyte. When river water meets the sea water, the electrolyte present in sea water coagulate the colloidal solution, yes or no, and forming delta. Clear now? So this is the meaning of formation of delta. Then last part is what? Your some applications of your colloidal solutions. First one is, what do you mean by electrical Cottrell precipitator? Electrical, yes or no, Cottrell precipitator. Cottrell precipitator. What is this? You know, in the plant area, yes or no, one long chimney is there, and during burning in the furnace, it produces a lot of your dust particles. It emits different types of gases. Yes, an unburned carbon soot also. So it makes atmosphere it makes air pollution. So that's why now your government has made one rule that every plant should fit electrical precipitator. So this part now we are reading. So what is this electrical precipitator? So before coming to the chimneys, that dust and the other different gases, that gas must be passed inside a chamber. So inside this chamber, when we pass this gas, yes or no, here electrodes are there, and here we are passing very high voltage electric current, around 33,000 volt. So this gas, yes or no, dust particle, so these are colloid, they have some certain charge, so they will deposit over this electron, and only the gas part will emit through the your chimney. So this dust particle, yes or no, when we will switch off this, then this dust particle will settle down and we will get a pure gas only. Suppose only pure carbon monoxide gas will emit to the atmosphere. So that this is called electrical precipitator. So electrical precipitator smoke, yes or no, smoke is a colloidal solution of solid particles such as carbon, arsenic, compounds, yes or no. So when they pass through this sealed tube, then this chamber purify the air. Similarly, purification of drinking water in the solution chapter we have read. In the drinking water also what SPM is used. So that is also one applications of colloidal solution. Medicines, tanning, cleansing action of soap and detergent. Yes or no? Rubber industry. So everywhere what your colloidal solutions applications are there. Understood? So that's why this chapter is very interesting and it has great application in our day-to-day life.